The power of self-control. The one thing that will make you unstoppable, Stoicism's secret. Alright, buckle up. Imagine this. You're standing at the edge of a cliff. Below you, chaos. A storm is raging, waves crashing, everything out of control. But you're standing there, calm, completely unruffled. How is that even possible? You didn't stop the storm. You didn't calm the waves. You didn't magically transport yourself away. What did you do? You mastered something far more powerful than any external force. You mastered yourself. You unlocked the incredible, often overlooked, power of self-control. And let me tell you, learning how to do this isn't just a philosophical exercise for some ancient Greek dude in a robe. This is the ultimate life upgrade. This is the difference between being tossed around like a leaf in the wind and being the rock that the waves break against. And I'm not just talking about saying no to that extra cookie. Oh no, we're going deep. We're talking about controlling your anger when someone cuts you off in traffic and you feel that primal urge to unleash fury. We're talking about controlling your fear when you're facing a massive decision, a job change, or a health scare. We're talking about controlling your desires when the world is constantly screaming at you to buy more, want more, be more, in ways that leave you feeling empty. This isn't just a video. This is a blueprint for building an unshakable inner fortress. By the end of this, you're going to look at your own reactions, your own impulses, your own life, completely differently. Get ready, because we're about to peel back the layers on one of the most potent forces in the universe. And it's already inside you. Okay, so maybe you've heard the word Stoicism and pictured someone emotionless. Maybe a bit boring. Throw that image out the window. Stoicism, at its core, is about practical wisdom for living an incredible life, regardless of what the world throws at you. And the absolute bedrock, the fundamental superpower of Stoicism, is self-control. The ancient Stoics called it sophrosyne, often translated as temperance or moderation. But it's so much more than that. It's the mastery of your own inner state. It's recognizing that while you can't control the events that happen to you, you have absolute power over how you respond to them. Think about it. Someone insults you. You feel that hot flush of anger. Your heart races. You want to lash out, defend yourself, hurt them back. That urge isn't the problem. The problem is if you let that urge take the wheel and drive you into a reaction you'll regret. Self-control is the pause button. It's the ability to observe that impulse, that emotion, that desire, and then choose your response based on reason and your highest values, rather than being a slave to your immediate feelings. Let me tell you a story, not some ancient tale, but something that happened to me that hammered this home like nothing else. I was working on this huge project, pouring everything into it. Millions were on the line. Not literally millions of dollars for me at the time, but the metaphorical millions of opportunity, reputation, years of effort. Everything was going perfectly. And then, one single email, one short, blunt email from a key stakeholder, basically tearing it all down, saying it wasn't what they wanted, pulling the plug. My stomach dropped, my vision narrowed, my hands started shaking. The immediate reaction? Fury, blame, panic. This wasn't fair. I wanted to fire off an email filled with justifications. Maybe a little passive aggression. Maybe a lot of active aggression. I felt that familiar surge. The one that says, you have to react now. You have to defend yourself. You have to fix this instantly. It felt urgent. It felt necessary. Every fiber of my being was screaming for an immediate, emotional response. And in the past, I would have sent that email. I would have said things I regretted, burned bridges, probably made the situation 10 times worse. But something clicked in that moment. It was like a tiny voice, quiet but persistent, asking, who is in control here? Was it the email? Was it the other person's opinion? Was it my own lizard brain, hijacking my response with primal emotions? Or could it be me? That was the philosophical moment. That sudden, piercing realization that the event, the email, had happened. It was a fact, but my reaction to it? That was entirely my choice. I could choose to let the panic and anger consume me, dictating my actions and leading to inevitable negative consequences. Or I could choose something else. I took a deep breath, and another, and I didn't reply. Not immediately. I stepped away from the computer. I walked outside. I felt the anger, the frustration, the fear. But this time, instead of identifying with them, I observed them, like clouds passing in the sky. They were there, but they weren't me. This is a fundamental Stoic practice, separating the event from your judgment of the event. The email was a setback. My judgment that it was a catastrophe, that it was unfair, that it was an attack on me personally, that was what was causing the suffering. The Stoics teach us that it's not things that disturb us, but our judgments about things. This email wasn't inherently soul-crushing, my interpretation of it was. And my interpretation was something I could work on. This isn't easy, by the way. This takes practice, lots of it. It's like building a muscle you didn't even know you had. You start small. Maybe it's controlling the urge to hit snooze for the 5th time. Maybe it's not snapping back when someone says something annoying. Maybe it's resisting the urge to scroll endlessly through social media when you know you should be working or spending time with loved ones. Each small act of self-control is a rep, strengthening that inner muscle, and the more you train it, the stronger it gets. You begin to see these moments not as frustrations, but as opportunities. Opportunities to practice, to get stronger, to gain more control over your inner world. Back to the email. Hours passed. I didn't reply. I thought. I reasoned. I considered the situation calmly. What was the rational response? Not the emotional one. The rational one. The rational response was to understand the feedback, to see if there was any validity to it, even if it was delivered poorly, and to figure out a constructive path forward. The emotional response would have been a dead end. By choosing self-control, by choosing that pause, I gave my rational mind a chance to catch up. And when I finally did respond, it was calm, professional, and focused on solutions. The outcome? It wasn't a total victory, but I salvaged far more than I would have if I'd unleashed the fury. More importantly, I felt a profound sense of power. Not power over the other person or the situation, but power over myself. That's the real win. This principle applies everywhere. Think about your health. We know what we should eat. We know we should exercise. But the immediate gratification of junk food or staying on the couch is often more appealing than the long-term benefit. That's a battle of self-control. The desire is strong, but your ability to choose the harder, better path, that's your superpower. Think about your finances. We know we should save, invest, not rack up debt on things we don't need. But the desire for that shiny new gadget, that fancy vacation right now, can be overwhelming. Self-control is the key to financial freedom, because it's the key to freedom from impulsive, destructive desires. What if I told you that mastering self-control is the closest thing you'll get to a real-life superpower? It doesn't give you the ability to fly or shoot lasers, but it gives you something arguably more valuable: the ability to remain calm and effective in the face of chaos. It gives you the ability to pursue your most important goals even when it's difficult and uncomfortable. It gives you the ability to build meaningful relationships by not letting your temper or insecurities ruin them. It gives you freedom. Freedom from being a puppet pulled by the strings of your own impulses and external circumstances. The Stoics understood this deeply. They saw that the only thing truly ours to control are our thoughts, judgments, desires, and actions. Everything else, our health, reputation, possessions, the actions of others, the weather, the stock market, is external, indifferent, and ultimately, not within our power. Trying to control the uncontrollable is a guaranteed path to suffering. But focusing all your energy on mastering the one thing you can control? That is the path to tranquility and effectiveness. This isn't about suppressing emotions. That's a common misconception. Stoicism isn't about being a robot. It's about understanding your emotions, recognizing them for what they are, temporary, often irrational responses to your judgments, and choosing not to be ruled by them. You feel the anger, you feel the fear, you feel the desire. That's okay. You're human. The difference is, with self-control, you don't have to act on every feeling. You can choose to pause, to think, to respond wisely. It's the difference between being a wild horse galloping wherever its instincts take it and being a skilled rider who can guide the horse with a gentle hand. Think about the most challenging person in your life. The one who always knows how to push your buttons. You feel that familiar tension rise the moment you interact with them. Your immediate impulse might be to get defensive, to retaliate, to shut down. But what if, in that moment, you engaged your self-control? What if you took a breath and remembered that their behavior is a reflection of them? Their issues, their judgments, not necessarily a reflection of you? You can choose not to take the bait. You can choose to respond with calm and reason, or even just with silence. That doesn't mean you let people walk all over you. Boundaries are important. But how you enforce those boundaries is where self-control comes in. Do you do it from a place of reactive anger, which escalates conflict, or from a place of calm assertion, which is far more effective? The choice, enabled by self-control, is yours. This requires incredible inner strength, but it's a strength that is available to everyone. It just needs to be cultivated. What if the greatest obstacle in your life isn't a person, or a job, or a lack of money, but simply your own undisciplined mind and your uncontrolled impulses? We often seek external solutions to internal problems. We think if we just had more money, a different boss, a perfect relationship, then we'd be happy and in control. But the Stoics teach us that true freedom and control come from within. It comes from mastering your reactions, your desires, your judgments, and the cornerstone of that mastery is self-control. It's the ability to say no to yourself when your short-sighted desires conflict with your long-term well-being. It's the ability to persevere through difficulty when your immediate urge is to quit. It's the ability to remain calm when you feel overwhelmed by fear. This isn't just about willpower in the narrow sense. It's a profound understanding of what is truly important and aligning your inner state with that understanding. Consider the simple act of waking up early. The alarm goes off. Your bed is warm and comfortable. Your mind is foggy. The desire to stay asleep is powerful. Your self-control is tested in that very moment. Do you succumb to the immediate comfort, or do you exert your will and get up to pursue your goals? Every single day is filled with dozens, if not hundreds, of these small tests. And each time you choose the path of discipline, you strengthen that muscle. Each time you choose the path of least resistance, you weaken it. The cumulative effect over time is immense. A life of discipline is a life of freedom, because you are free from being dictated by your fleeting moods and urges. A life without discipline is a form of slavery, where you are constantly buffeted by whatever immediate stimulus comes your way. The Stoic view of self-control isn't about deprivation for its own sake. It's about directing your desires and aversions towards things that are actually within your control and are genuinely good for you, like developing your character, acting virtuously, and exercising reason. It's about moderating your pursuit of external things, recognizing that they are uncertain and can be taken away. It's about finding contentment not in accumulating external goods, but in cultivating inner virtues. And self-control, sophrosine, is a virtue itself, one of the 4 cardinal virtues alongside wisdom, justice, and courage. It's the virtue that helps you regulate your desires and impulses in accordance with reason. It's the balance that prevents excess in any area of life. Let me tell you about a time I saw this play out in a dramatic way. It was during a crisis. Something unexpected and stressful hit my family. My initial reaction was sheer panic. My mind raced through every terrible possibility. My breathing became shallow. I felt completely overwhelmed, like the ground was dissolving beneath me. In that moment, the chaos felt absolute, and I felt utterly powerless. This is exactly where Stoicism, and specifically self-control, becomes not just a nice idea, but an essential lifeline. I remembered the teaching. What is happening is an external event. It is not inherently good or bad, it simply is. My distress was coming from my fear, my judgments about what this event meant and what terrible things might happen. None of those terrible things were happening right now. They were just possibilities in my mind, fueled by fear. So, I tried something. I focused on my breathing. Simple, I know, but incredibly powerful. I felt the air coming in and going out. I grounded myself in the present moment. And as I did that, I repeated the Stoic principle. This is not within my control. Not the event itself, not the potential outcomes, but my reaction, my state of mind, my next action, those were within my control. It took conscious effort, active self-control, to pull my mind away from the spiral of fearful thoughts and focus on what needed to be done now. What is the most rational, helpful step I can take in this moment? Not tomorrow, Not next week, but right now? By focusing on the immediate, controllable action, I regained my footing. The panic didn't vanish completely, but it receded from a flood to a manageable tide. This is the power, not the absence of difficulty, but the ability to meet difficulty with inner strength and composure. We often think of self-control as deprivation, as saying no to fun things. But what if we reframed it? What if self-control is actually saying yes to your long-term goals? Saying yes to your peace of mind? Saying yes to being the person you want to be? When you say no to that impulsive purchase, you're saying yes to financial security. When you say no to losing your temper, you're saying yes to healthier relationships. When you say no to hitting snooze, you're saying yes to productivity and purpose. It's not about what you're giving up, it's about what you're gaining. And what you're gaining is nothing less than mastery over your own life. This is not a one-time fix. It's a lifelong practice. Some days you'll nail it. You'll feel like a Stoic sage. Other days, you'll slip up. You'll lose your cool. You'll give in to temptation. That's okay. The Stoics weren't perfect, and they didn't expect you to be either. The key is awareness. To recognize when you've failed. To learn from it without dwelling on guilt or shame. And to recommit to the practice. It's like learning any skill. You don't master a musical instrument or a sport overnight. You practice, you fail, you learn, you improve, and the rewards for practicing self-control are immense. It builds resilience, inner peace, freedom from external validation, and the ability to navigate the inevitable storms of life with courage and composure. So, how do we actually build this self-control? It starts with awareness. You need to become intimately familiar with your triggers, your impulses, your patterns of reaction. When do you tend to lose your temper? What situations make you feel most fearful? What desires are hardest for you to resist? Simply observing these patterns without judgment is the first crucial step. The Stoics recommended journaling, writing down your thoughts and actions at the end of the day. Reflecting on where you succeeded and where you struggled in exercising control. This kind of self-examination is incredibly powerful. It brings the unconscious, automatic reactions into the light of conscious awareness, where you can then choose how to respond next time. Another practical Stoic technique is premeditation of adversity, or premeditatio malorum. This sounds grim, but it's actually a powerful tool for building resilience and self-control. It involves calmly contemplating the potential difficulties and misfortunes that could arise in your life: losing your job, getting sick, facing criticism, experiencing loss, not to dwell on them fearfully, but to mentally prepare for them, by thinking about how you would handle these challenges using your rational mind and Stoic principles. You rob them of some of their power if they actually happen. You've already rehearsed your response. You've already decided that your inner tranquility is more important than the external event. This practice strengthens your resolve and makes you less likely to be overwhelmed by sudden misfortune, allowing you to maintain self-control when it matters most. The journey to mastering self-control isn't about becoming someone else, it's about becoming more fully yourself. The rational, capable person that exists beneath the layers of conditioning, impulse, and external pressure. It's about aligning your actions with your deepest values and your long-term well-being. It's about understanding that true freedom isn't doing whatever you want whenever you want. It's having the power to choose what is right and good, even when it's hard. This power is available to everyone. Right now, it doesn't require special equipment, a gym membership, or a massive bank account. It requires awareness, practice, and a commitment to training your most important asset, your own mind. Are you ready to start? Are you ready to stop being tossed around by the waves and become the unshakable rock? Because the challenges are coming. They always are. But how you meet them, that's completely up to you. And that power, that self-control, changes everything. You might be thinking, okay, this sounds good, but what about those massive external things? Like, what if the storm isn't just emotional, but a real-life catastrophe? Can self-control really help then? Get ready, because in the next segment, we're diving headfirst into some intense scenarios where self-control was the only thing left. And it made all the difference. You won't believe what happens when you apply these principles under extreme pressure. The ultimate test. When self-control is all you have left. Welcome back. If you thought the last segment was intense, buckle up, because we're about to turn the dial up to 11. We talked about the power of self-control in everyday life, the emails, the temptations, the annoying people, but what happens when life hits you with a true Category 5 hurricane? Something that threatens to sweep away everything you hold dear? Can self-control really stand against that kind of force? The Stoics believed it could, and not just survive, but help you navigate the disaster with dignity and effectiveness. Let me share another story, one that illustrates this on a much larger scale. This isn't a personal story this time, but something I learned about that resonated deeply with Stoic teachings. Imagine a city under siege. Resources are scarce. Danger is everywhere. The future is incredibly uncertain. Panic is the natural, understandable response. Fear is rampant. People are driven by primal instincts, survival, self-preservation, hoarding. In such a scenario, individual self-control might seem insignificant against the collective chaos. But it's precisely in these moments that it becomes most potent. Think about the citizens who, despite the terror, chose to maintain order within their own households. Who didn't succumb to looting or violence, even when others did? Who shared their meager resources, not out of naive optimism, but out of a reasoned commitment to justice and community, even in the face of injustice and breakdown around them. These weren't necessarily heroes in the traditional sense, performing daring feats. Their heroism was internal. It was the quiet, incredibly difficult act of maintaining control over their fear, their greed, their despair, and choosing instead to act in accordance with reason and virtue. This isn't easy. Let's be brutally honest. When your survival feels threatened, your brain is hardwired to go into fight, flight, or freeze mode. Rational thought can feel impossible. This is where the Stoic practice comes in before the crisis hits. Remember premeditatio malorum? By contemplating difficulties when you are calm, you build mental resilience. You train yourself to recognize the panic response for what it is, an alarm system. Sometimes false, sometimes useful, but not something that has to dictate your actions. You create a little bit of space between the stimulus, the terrifying situation, and your response. And in that space, however tiny, lies your freedom. I had my own less dramatic, but still deeply challenging, experience with this during a period of immense financial pressure. It felt like everything was collapsing. The numbers weren't adding up. Bills were piling up, and the source of income was uncertain. The fear was visceral. Sleep became difficult. My mind was a constant loop of worst-case scenarios. This is a situation many of you can probably relate to on some level. Financial stress is a huge source of anxiety and a major test of self-control. The urge to panic, to make impulsive decisions out of desperation, to lash out at those around you because you're stressed, it's incredibly powerful. My immediate impulse was chaos. Blame myself. Blame others. Withdraw, or frantically try anything, no matter how ill-conceived. My self-control felt like it was dissolving. But again, that little voice, trained by years of grappling with these ideas, whispered, "Okay, the situation is bad. Acknowledge that. Feel the fear. Don't suppress it. But now what? What is the most rational step?" It wasn't about magically making the problems disappear. It was about controlling my reaction to them. Instead of panicking, I forced myself to sit down and calmly list the facts of the situation. Just the facts, stripped of my fearful interpretations. How much money did I actually have? How much did I actually owe? What were the absolute non-negotiables? What were the potential sources of help? This act of forcing rationality onto an emotionally charged situation required immense self-control. Every cell in my body wanted to run away from the numbers, to pretend it wasn't happening, or to rage against the unfairness of it all. But by exerting self-control, by choosing reason over panic, I created a space for clear thinking. This didn't instantly solve the financial problems, but it allowed me to make clear-headed decisions instead of panicked ones. It allowed me to communicate calmly with those who needed to be paid. Rather than defensively, it allowed me to explore realistic solutions instead of chasing desperate long shots. And crucially, it allowed me to maintain my inner peace to a significant degree. Despite the external turmoil, I was still stressed, yes, but I wasn't paralyzed by fear. I was functioning. I was acting from a place of reason, not just reacting from a place of raw emotion. This is the profound power of self-control in the face of overwhelming external challenge. It doesn't change the challenge, but it changes you, and that changes how you can effectively deal with the challenge. Think about anger. We all feel it. It's a powerful, explosive emotion, and in the moment, it can feel incredibly justified. Someone wronged you. They deserve your wrath. The immediate impulse is to unleash it. But what is the consequence of uncontrolled anger? It burns bridges. It makes you say and do things you regret. It poisons your own state of mind. The Stoics saw anger as a form of temporary madness, a brief abdication of reason, and mastering it requires immense self-control. This doesn't mean you never feel angry. It means you don't let anger control you. When you feel that heat rising, that tension building, self-control is the ability to step back, to ask yourself, what is actually happening here? Is my anger based on a rational assessment of the situation? Or is it based on my pride, my ego, my assumptions? Often, it's the latter. The Stoics taught that anger often arises from the judgment that we have been wronged. That something has happened that shouldn't have happened. But remember the dichotomy of control? The actions of others are not within our control. Their choices, their words, they belong to them. Our judgment of those things, and our reaction to them, belongs to us. Mastering anger through self-control is like learning martial arts. It's not about never being attacked. It's about learning how to defend yourself effectively without unnecessary harm. And often, how to de-escalate the situation. It's about using your energy constructively, not destructively. It takes practice. When you feel that surge of anger, consciously pause, breathe, ask the Stoic questions. Is this within my control? What is the rational response? What is the virtuous response? It might feel unnatural at first, like forcing yourself to do something against your will. But with practice, this pause becomes more natural. The space between stimulus and response widens, and you gain the ability to choose peace over fury. Consider desire. The world is built to stimulate our desires. Advertisements, social media, comparisons with others, they all constantly tell us we need more. We need better. We need different. And the desire for these external things can be a relentless master. We work harder, spend more, sometimes compromise our values, all in the pursuit of things that the Stoics would call indifferent, neither inherently good nor bad, and ultimately unable to provide lasting happiness or fulfillment. Self-control in the face of desire isn't about becoming an ascetic who owns nothing. It's about recognizing that true contentment comes from within, not from without. It's about moderating your desires, directing them towards things that are genuinely good, like wisdom, justice, courage, and being content with what you have, rather than constantly chasing what you don't. This is where the wow moment comes in. You see someone who seems to have it all, the fancy car, the big house, the perfect social media life, and you feel that pang of desire, maybe even envy. Your immediate impulse is to want what they have, to feel less than because you don't have it. But the Stoic perspective, enabled by self-control, allows you to pause, to look beyond the surface, to remember that external possessions do not guarantee inner peace or happiness. To remember that what truly matters is your character, your virtue, your inner state, and to choose contentment with what you have, while still perhaps working towards external goals, but not being enslaved by the need for them. The wow is realizing that freedom from relentless desire is more liberating than acquiring anything the world can offer. It's the sudden understanding that the chase itself is often the source of unhappiness, and that stepping off the hamster wheel of endless wanting is an act of profound self-liberation, made possible by self-control. It's realizing that you don't need permission from the world, or external validation, to be happy. You have the power to choose contentment, right here, right now, by controlling your own desires and judgments. How many times have we made decisions based on fear? Fear of missing out, fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of the unknown. Fear can paralyze us or drive us into frantic, ill-advised action. Self-control is essential for facing fear with courage. Courage, for the Stoics, wasn't the absence of fear, but the willingness to act rightly despite feeling fear. It's about recognizing the fear, understanding its source, often, judgments about potential future events that are not yet, and may never be, real, and choosing your actions based on reason and your values, not dictated by panic. Let's talk about a real-world application of this that I witnessed. A friend of mine was offered a huge career opportunity, but it involved significant risk and stepping far outside their comfort zone. They were terrified. The fear of failure was immense. Their immediate impulse was to play it safe, to turn it down, but they had been practicing Stoic principles. They used self-control to manage that fear. They acknowledged it, they felt it, but they didn't let it make the decision for them. They calmly analyzed the opportunity, the potential upsides and downsides, and focused on what was within their control, their effort, their learning, their preparation. They chose to face the fear, to act with courage enabled by self-control, and they took the leap. The outcome was incredibly positive, but even if it hadn't been, the victory was in controlling their fear and acting from a place of reasoned courage, not reactive avoidance. This is the critical shift, seeing self-control not as a limitation, but as the key to unlocking your potential. It's the discipline that allows you to focus your energy on what truly matters. It's the resilience that allows you to bounce back from setbacks. It's the inner calm that allows you to think clearly under pressure. It's the freedom from being jerked around by your emotions and impulses. We are constantly bombarded with stimuli, with demands on our attention, with opportunities for distraction. Our phones, our inboxes, social media notifications. They are all designed to hijack our attention and control our behavior through the pull of novelty, validation, or anxiety. Exercising self-control in the digital age is arguably harder than ever before. It requires conscious effort to decide when to check your phone, what notifications to allow, how much time you spend online. Without this discipline, you risk losing control of your most valuable resource, your time and attention. The Stoics didn't have smartphones, but they understood the importance of guarding your attention and focusing it on things that contribute to your well-being and virtue. Their principles are more relevant now than ever. Every time you choose to put your phone away and engage fully with the person in front of you, that's an act of self-control. Every time you resist the urge to endlessly scroll and instead focus on a task, that's an act of self-control. Every time you choose a quiet moment of reflection over seeking external stimulation, that's an act of self-control. These small victories build the muscle, making it easier to exert control in bigger moments. You might be asking, okay, but what's the ultimate goal? Why go through all this effort to master myself? The Stoics would say the goal is eudaimonia, a state of flourishing, living a good life. And for them, a good life was a virtuous life, a life lived in accordance with reason and nature. Self-control is not just a tool for avoiding problems, it's a necessary component of living a life of purpose, meaning, and inner peace. It allows you to act virtuously even when it's difficult, to pursue wisdom without being distracted by trivialities, to act justly without being swayed by personal biases, and to act courageously without being paralyzed by fear. The real, wow, moment here is the realization that the life you truly want, the life of purpose, peace, and resilience, is built not on external circumstances, but on the foundation of your own character, cultivated through the practice of self-control. It's the realization that you have the power to build that foundation, starting right now, with the choices you make in the smallest moments. But there's a deeper layer to this. What happens when self-control is tested not by external events, but by something within us that feels almost impossible to control? Something that feels hardwired, a part of who we are? In the final segment, we're going to explore the deepest challenges to self-control, the kind that force you to confront your own nature, and how Stoicism offers a radical path to freedom even from these internal battles. This is where the rubber truly meets the road. The inner battle. How self-control defeats your deepest limitations. Alright, you've made it this far. We've talked about self-control against external storms and everyday annoyances. We've seen how it helps us manage fear, anger, and desire when they're triggered by the world outside. But what about the battles that rage inside? The deep-seated habits, the ingrained patterns of behavior, the impulses that feel almost impossible to resist because they feel like us? This is the ultimate frontier of self-control. And it's where the power of Stoicism truly shines. Think about procrastination. It's not an external force. It's a deeply internal struggle. You know you have something important to do. You know you'll feel better once it's done. But something inside resists. The urge to distract yourself, to put it off, to do anything else, is incredibly strong. This isn't just laziness, it's a failure of self-control, an inability to align your actions with your rational understanding of what needs to be done. The desire for immediate comfort, avoiding the uncomfortable task, overrides the knowledge of long-term benefit, getting the task done. How do we apply self-control here? It starts with recognizing the feeling of resistance without judgment. Okay, I'm feeling resistant to starting this task. Then, engaging reason. Why am I resistant? Is it fear of failure? Is it just inertia? What is the rational next step? The Stoic approach isn't about waiting until you feel motivated. It's about acting according to reason. Regardless of how you feel, it's about using self-control to initiate the task, even when you don't want to. Breaking it down into smaller steps can help. The self-control isn't needed to do the whole task at once, but to do just the first step, and then the next, and the next. Each small act of overcoming the inertia is a victory, building that inner strength. Let me tell you about a personal battle that felt almost insurmountable. For years, I struggled with a particular unhealthy habit. It was something I knew was detrimental to my health and well-being. Something I desperately wanted to stop. But the pull was incredibly strong. It felt like a part of me. I would quit, feel good for a while, and then, inevitably, the craving, the urge, would return with overwhelming force. And I would give in. It was a cycle of shame and defeat. I felt like I had no self-control in this one area. That I was simply powerless against this internal adversary. I tried everything: willpower, rewards, punishments, trying to distract myself. Nothing worked consistently. It felt like a fundamental flaw in my character. But then I revisited the Stoic texts, looking at self-control from a deeper perspective. It wasn't just about saying no to external temptations. It was about reining in unruly internal impulses and desires. And I realized I was approaching it wrong. I was fighting the feeling, the craving, directly, trying to crush it with brute force willpower. But that's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. The harder you push, the more it wants to pop back up. The Stoic approach is different. It's about changing your relationship with the feeling, recognizing the craving not as a command that must be obeyed, but as a fleeting sensation, an impression. The craving is my assent to the craving, my decision to act on it, is where my power lies. I couldn't magically make the craving disappear, at least not initially. But I could choose not to give it permission to dictate my actions. This was a massive philosophical breakthrough for me. It wasn't about a battle of strength between me and the craving, where the craving often won. It was about understanding that I am the one who grants the craving power by choosing to act on it. The power of self-control here is the power to withhold that assent. It's the pause, the recognition, and the deliberate choice not to follow the impulse. I started practicing observing the craving without acting on it, just sitting with the discomfort. It was incredibly difficult at first. My mind screamed at me to give in, promised relief, rationalized why just this once would be okay. But I held on, focusing on my breath, repeating to myself, this is just a feeling. It will pass. I do not have to act on it. I choose not to assent. And you know what? It did pass. The craving, while intense, was not permanent. It was a wave, and I could choose to let it crash over me, or I could choose to stand firm and let it recede. This practice, repeated over and over, is the essence of building self-control against deep-seated habits. It's not about effortless willpower, it's about the consistent, conscious effort to choose reason over impulse, your long-term well-being over immediate gratification. It's about recognizing that you are not your urges. You are the rational mind that can choose how to respond to them. This is the profound freedom that Stoicism offers, freedom not just from external forces, but from the tyranny of your own untrained desires and habits. What about negative self-talk? The inner critic that tells you you're not good enough, that you'll fail, that you're unworthy? This is another internal battleground where self-control is crucial. These thoughts can feel incredibly real. Incredibly powerful. They can paralyze you, make you give up before you even start. But Stoicism teaches us that these are just impressions, thoughts that arise in the mind. And like cravings, we have the power to withhold our assent from them. When that inner critic pipes up, self-control allows you to pause, to recognize the thought, okay, I'm having the thought that I'm going to fail, and then, critically, to examine it. Is this thought based on reason and evidence? Or is it just a fearful assumption? Often, it's the latter, and you can choose not to agree with it. You can choose not to identify with it. You can choose to replace it with a more rational, helpful thought, or simply to focus your attention elsewhere. This is an act of profound self-control, taking back the reins of your own mind from the grip of negativity. This is where the wow moment is truly transformative. It's the realization that you are not doomed by your past failures, your ingrained habits, or your negative thoughts. You have the power, through self-control, to reshape your inner world, to choose what thoughts you entertain, what impulses you act on, what kind of person you will be, regardless of the internal noise. It's the ultimate declaration of independence, not from a country or a ruler, but from the parts of yourself that hold you back. The Stoics also emphasized the importance of distinguishing between what is truly good and bad. For them, the only true good is virtue, and the only true bad is vice. Everything else, health, wealth, reputation, even life itself, is indifferent, meaning it doesn't inherently make you a good or bad person, or guarantee your happiness. This perspective is incredibly powerful for self-control. If you train yourself to believe that your character, your integrity, your virtue, is the only thing that truly matters, then the desire for external things, or the fear of losing them, loses much of its power. Imagine being offered a fortune to do something against your values, something unjust, without self-control rooted in the understanding that virtue is the highest good. The desire for the money might be overwhelming, but with self-control, strengthened by the Stoic perspective, you have the power to say no, because you understand that compromising your integrity, your virtue, is the only true harm. Losing the money is merely losing an indifferent external. This is where self-control becomes more than just discipline, it becomes the guardian of your moral compass. Consider Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher. This was a man with almost unlimited power, surrounded by every possible temptation and political intrigue, and yet, his meditations are a testament to a lifelong struggle for self-control, controlling his anger, his judgments of others, his desires for comfort, his fear of death. If a Roman emperor needed to practice self-control daily, what does that tell us about its importance in our own lives? No matter our circumstances? His writings are filled with reminders to himself to stay present, to focus on what is within his control, to act justly and wisely. Regardless of the chaotic demands of his role, he constantly reminded himself that external things were temporary and unreliable, and that his true strength lay in his inner fortress, built and maintained through rigorous self-control and adherence to Stoic principles. This is the ultimate inspiration, even in the most demanding, power-filled role imaginable. Self-control was the key to maintaining integrity and effectiveness. So, where do we go from here? We've seen that self-control is the power to navigate external storms, to manage challenging emotions, and to conquer deeply ingrained internal battles. It's the foundation of a virtuous life, the key to inner peace, and the path to true freedom. It's not a destination you arrive at, but a practice you commit to, every single day, in every choice you make. Start small. Pick one area where you want to exercise more self-control. Maybe it's hitting snooze. Maybe it's mindlessly scrolling. Maybe it's snapping in frustration. Become aware of the impulse. Pause. Apply reason. Choose the response that aligns with your values, with the person you want to be. Don't be discouraged by setbacks, they're part of the process. Learn from them and keep going. The power is within you. It always has been. Stoicism doesn't give you something new. It helps you uncover and train the incredible capacity for self-mastery that you already possess. The power of self-control is not about being emotionless or rigid, it's about being deliberate, rational, and free. It's about living a life where you are the author of your choices, not a character being tossed about by the winds of impulse and circumstance. The journey requires courage, perseverance, and honesty with yourself. It's not the easiest path, but it is the most rewarding. Because the treasure at the end isn't gold or fame, it's an unshakable inner calm. A profound sense of freedom, and the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you are the master of your own fate. Not because you control the world, but because you control yourself. This is the real superpower. This is the secret to being unstoppable. It's not about conquering the world, it's about conquering yourself. And when you do that, everything changes. Absolutely everything. Remember this. It's not what happens to you, but how you react that matters. And your reaction is 100% within your control. That is the power. Use it. Now go. Train your mind. The world is waiting for the unshakable you.